up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris. I am joined by two of the best in the business in the sports analysis world, Jurg and Dame. Fellas, how are you today?
Pretty good. You know, getting through all this cold. Yeah, getting through all this cold, right, Dame?
Yeah, it could be better. Could have better friends.
So why are you talking to Jurgen like that, bro?
Nah, I'm talking to you.
I mean, look, Dame's a little upset because there was a snowstorm in New York. So, you know.
That too. Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah. All right, but this is not a weather report. We analyze sports here, and that's what we're here to do. Guys, you know what I just realized? We've been doing this shit for I think 3 months.
Let's go.
Feels like we've been doing it for 2 weeks, right, Dame?
Yeah.
All right.
Start the show.
So, guys, a plethora of news occurred over the week, and it was some pretty diverse news. We got some baseball finally, and then of course, we got football. Football has been leading the ship in terms of news outlets, and then we're gonna talk about a little basketball player that plays for a certain team. You know,
Get ready for
because
that.
an anniversary of a certain trade occurred, so we'll be talking about that. But we'll end off the show with that. First and foremost, we're going to talk about all the news that occurred, and we're going to give our thoughts on it, because that's what we do in this podcast. So, starting off with baseball news, a trade happened. Would you guys consider it a blockbuster trade?
Oh, yeah.
One side was blockbuster. The other side was...
Fair point.
Okay. All right. Well, the Colorado Rockies have officially traded Nolan Arenado to the St. Louis Cardinals for, bear with me, Austin Gomber, Mateo Gil, Montero, I'm not going to even try to pronounce his first name, and Tony Losi, and Jake Somers. Guys, big trade, of course, for the Cardinals, because they get a superstar third baseman. Yeah, what do we think about this? Dame, I want to start with you.
All right, well, this is a complete one-sided. It goes A+ for the Cardinals and an F for the Rockies, in my opinion.
Okay.
They're getting the best third baseman in the league, straight up. It's not one of the best. Nolan Arenado, to me, is the best third baseman in the league. He's in the MVP conversation every year. He's among the top RBI leaders every year, home runs, batting average, all that. And he's always finishing either first or second in the Gold Glove as well. He's just an all-around superstar in the league. Not to mention that they just got Arenado. The Rockies sent them $50 million as well to help pay for Arenado. So basically, for this year and maybe half of next year, the Cardinals aren't even paying Arenado because the Rockies decided, hey, let me just throw you $50 million to take one of the best players in the league off our hands. Another thing that helped lopside this towards the Cardinals is the fact that the Rockies got no top prospects in this deal. The highest rated prospect they got was the Cardinals' 8th best prospect. Now, an 8th best prospect maybe is good in a deal when the team's farm system is pretty good, but the Cardinals are basically an average kind of farm system. They aren't the Padres or the Rays, where an 8th prospect could be like a top 3 prospect on another team. So there's that. They got the 8th best prospect and 19th best prospect from the Cardinals, which is literally nothing when you see the kind of player Arenado is. So to me, it's just a lopsided trade for the Cardinals. They got away with a steal and they got some money on top of it. And to me, it makes the Cardinals one of the best teams in the NL and definitely a team to watch out for the World Series.
Some competition for the Mets, I assume?
No comment.
All right. Jurg?
So Dame is absolutely right. Like the somewhat baffling thing was the fact that the Rockies had to send the $50 million over to St. Louis as well, in part to help pay for this contract. Like Dame said, none of these guys are really top prospects. The thing with the Cardinals is that while they're a solid drafting team and their prospect farm system it's solid. I wouldn't want to call it below average, but it's solid. The thing is that when the Cardinals have a prospect, they tend to be a big reason why their guys develop. Like, they are very good at being able to groom guys, but they don't always get to groom every single player. So like Dame said, like the fact that they got only one top 10 prospect in this deal back for Arenado, who since 2015, these are his ranks in Major League Baseball, not just in third baseman, but all players. First in RBI with 647, first in extra base hits with 427, first in total bases at 1,814, and then second in home runs in 207. He is legit. He is a legit contender, a very underrated player for one of the best in the game. And like Dame said, he's a consistent Gold Glove first or second place player in the third baseman vote, which means he's an amazing defensive player. He's a hitter. I think he's a pretty good leader. You know, he was the leader of the Rockies the last couple of years. I think what this all boils down to is the fact that the Rockies just looked at their division, because obviously this past year it was an expanded year due to COVID. And they saw not just the Dodgers usually being the Dodgers, but they saw the Padres overtake them. And I think the Padres have established themselves as second best in the division, even if you just go back to how well they did last season. But then you think about some of the moves they made with getting Snell and Darvish, as we talked about a couple episodes back. Overall, the Rockies seeing the writing on the wall that they are no longer a true contender for the second best team in the division, I think that's what spurred this move ultimately. Of course, there was some talk about Arenado not being happy, but ultimately Colorado just deciding to blow it up and rebuild now, essentially, because that's what you do when you trade a player like this. You're committing to a rebuild. They're going to go down the path that some of these teams, like in recent years, that the Cubs and the Padres have done, which is just blow it up, trade away your best pieces now, and then just hope that you draft a pretty good team to go on a run in the future. But yeah, that's what led to this. They're no longer the second best team in that division potentially, and they said, all right, we're not going to pretend. Let's just blow it up.
Dame, any response?
He said everything needs to be said. The Cardinals got away with it. One of the best players in the league is now in the Cardinals. They did this a couple years ago when they traded for Paul Goldschmidt as well.
Yeah.
Basically, same kind of player, high RBI guy, high average, great leader, great defensive player. Who knows who they're going to get next? But for now, they're definitely one of the World Series contenders, not only in the NL, but in the entire league.
Absolutely. And yeah, like Dame said, fun fact, the second time in the last 3 years they've poached a guy from an NL West squad. It was the Diamondbacks first, now the Rockies.
Yeah, that's that. Now we move on to another sport where I guess a blockbuster trade also occurred. So, the Los Angeles Rams traded Jared Goff 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick to the Detroit Lions for Matthew Stafford. Now, guys, there was I would say some mixed reception to this trade when it was first announced.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jared Goff and the Rams organization weren't seeing eye to eye, and there was reports, of course, like a week prior that they were looking to trade him or something like that, or at least like not upfront about it, but there was you could see the writing on the wall, of course, and he obviously gets traded to the Detroit Lions, and Matt Stafford to the Rams. So I'm gonna give my semi take on this before you guys jump in and take over. I think the Lions get a pretty decent ass haul for Matthew Stafford, to be honest. 2 first-round picks right there. I think that right there is worth it. Now, of course, they could be low. There probably are going to be low picks, but still 2 first-round picks regardless, I think, are just solid, especially for a team that's obviously on the rebuild. And then the third-round pick as well. So, Jared Goff, obviously, I know people are mixed on him as well, but I think now that he's kind of in a low-key team, to be honest, I know it's the Detroit Lions and they play on Thanksgiving, et cetera, but I think he's on a rebuilding team and in a team that doesn't get enough attention or as much attention as like the Rams, of course. I think he's going to be able to do his thing, and he's going to operate to like his pace as opposed to the Rams where expectations are obviously so high. And of course, you're always looking at playoff runs and it's like, yo, can they get out the NFC? And especially coming off like the Super Bowl run, even though they didn't win, but I'll just call it a Super Bowl run a few years ago, where they lost to the Patriots, of course. So I like this deal for the Lions. Again, you got a young quarterback, and you got picks, and for a rebuilding team, that's the best thing you could ask for. Now, for the Rams, obviously, I think they're banking off Stafford being that piece to bring them over the hump, and I think he could be. I know there's doubt because of like his injury history, but I think Matthew Stafford is really talented, and he goes under the radar because he played for the Lions, of course. But you heard Aaron Rodgers say it; he doesn't get enough credit sometimes. So I think Matthew Stafford could bring them over the hump. Especially in the NFC, to be honest, I think that's a wide open. And of course, like he's obviously an upgrade from Jared Goff. So in my opinion, I think it's a good deal for both teams. Did the Rams give up a little too much for Stafford? I think so. But, I guess they had to do it to get out of Goff's contract because I think that's an underlying tone to this. I think that's, that was a big thing in the trade. So, yeah, I like the trade for both teams. I think it's going to get the Rams over the hump. And I think Detroit got a more than good haul. So That's my stance on it. Jurgen, we'll start with you. What do you think?
So I think one of the things you keyed on to the end of your take is the fact that part of the reason that this offer had to be what it was because of Jared Goff's contract. Albert Breer, a guy who covers the NFL, came out with some news after the trade had went through, talking about some of the other alleged offers that were on the table to Detroit for Stafford. And you look at teams. I think the main two to take note of were the fact that the Panthers offered the 8th pick and another later round pick, potentially a third, maybe a fourth. And the Washington football team offered the 19th pick plus a third round pick. I think the way I could summarize this deal is simply this. I think the one first round pick was sent. I think the first and the third were sent to get Stafford, and the second first was sent to get rid of Goff's contract. Like a contract that for the last year or so, Rams fans have had to dread what it was going to do to the cap space. Like part of the reason they've had such a cap crunch the last like 2 years, 2 off seasons, is because of that Jared Goff contract. To this day, I still will never understand why Kroenke and management decided to give him that contract. There was never any true reason to. Like Jared Goff is a decent quarterback. He looks good with Sean McVay, but let that be the key word, Sean McVay. And the Rams are clearly getting the better player, the better quarterback out in this deal. This really opens up what their offense can do. Sean McVay has had to do a lot of like run pass option stuff with this team, and not necessarily the same way that you would run with a Lamar Jackson. But what I mean is really relying very heavily on that running game to open things up for your quarterback. Now you look at a guy that Stafford can be that drop back to pass quarterback, take 5-step, 7-step drop backs, connect on the deep ball at a much higher level. Yes, two firsts is kind of steep, but when you actually look at the Rams' recent draft history, a lot of their best picks have been second and third rounders. They've done such a good job that honestly, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here. I think they win this deal.
So yeah, I kind of see this as both teams being wins. This is sure the Rams got Stafford, which they see as an improvement over Goff. Personally, I don't think there's much of a difference between both these QBs. Sure, I'll give a slight edge to Stafford, but honestly, I don't see much of a difference. But I guess maybe Stafford fits their system better. Maybe McVay likes Stafford more. I don't know. But regardless, the Rams are a winner because to them they view it as a improvement, and obviously whatever Sean McVay wants, he's gonna get because he's such a great coach. So if he thinks this is gonna fit better, then I trust him. They're gonna be one of the best teams in the NFC. On the Lions side, of course, they get 2 first-round picks, and first-round picks are so valuable in this league, especially for a rebuilding team like that. So that's a big win. They get a third-round pick this year, which is obviously going to help. And honestly, getting Jared Goff isn't the worst thing in the world. Like I said, I don't think he's far off from Stafford. And yeah, his contract is bad, but I did some research on it. So he's getting paid, his salary cap hit this year and next year is both $25 million. For Stafford, it was 20 and 23, so it's a couple million off. And so, yeah, but Stafford's deal is only 2 years while Goff is 4. But the thing is about Goff's deal, the last 2 years of his deal, he can be cut with no cap hit. So there's no guaranteed money in the last 2 years. So truly, if they really want, after his first 2 years, if it doesn't work out, they could easily cut him and save all that money and not have to pay him. So the way I look at it is these contracts are kind of equal, to be honest, because you were going to have 2 years with Stafford anyway. So now you have these 2 years with a younger Goff. You can see what he has. If you don't like what he's showing you, you could cut him and not have to pay him like money in the last 2 years of the deal, while still having 2 first-round picks to try to rebuild the team around him or try to find a QB to replace him.
You go ahead, Jake. Do you want to say something?
I kind of like my thing with the whole Goff isn't far off from Stafford. I just don't agree with that because Stafford in his career in Detroit only ever had a top 10 defense one time. He only ever had a 1,000-yard rusher one time. And when those times happened, they made the playoffs. Goff had the amazing privilege in the 2 best years of the Rams' recent run. He had Todd Gurley. One of those years, Gurley won Offensive Player of the Year. The year they made the Super Bowl, had it not been for his knees giving out late in that season, and I literally mean late, the last regular season game was when the knee issues really began. Had that not happened, the Rams maybe would have had a more legit shot in the Super Bowl in and of itself. And having Aaron Donald on that defense, Jalen Ramsey, like my thing isn't the contract. Like you have to look at it. There was a $92 million dead cap hit last year. And I think 2 years ago, excuse me. And I think the one this past season in and of itself was a high number as well. Like if they had kept Goff, they would have had to move a number of contracts around. And you're talking about with the idea of the salary cap being lowered this season, there would have had to been so much cap flexibility, cap management. They would have had to do way more to the extent than what they would have to do with Stafford when you think of bonuses and various things like that. That's why that's why on the contract wise, it's a little bit misleading to just look at Goff's salary cap numbers because it affects the team way more than most would think. And then in terms of being like how close they are, like I don't think it's any question. I think Stafford's a better thrower of the football by a mile than Goff. Like I just don't think it's close.
Well, I mean, Dame, go ahead. I heard the sigh. Go ahead.
No. I was late breathing. It wasn't a sigh.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, I could see both your points. Yeah, Jared Goff isn't a bad quarterback by any means. He really is talented. I just think if McVay, you're right, Dame. If McVay thinks it's a massive upgrade, then obviously I get why they pulled the trigger. I mean, I just see why both teams did it. To be honest, it was like, was it the perfect trade? I don't know. But there was logistical reasons on both sides as to why they pulled the trigger. But this is my final question before we move on. Do you guys think? I mean, I think I know what Dame's answer is, but does this trade bring the Rams? Does this trade make the Rams the favorites coming out of the NFC next year?
Well, to me, as of right now, if I look at it, they're the best team in their division. They're better than the Seahawks. The Seahawks, who knows what they're going to be. They need to change that coaching staff, in my opinion. The Cardinals are still up and coming, but I don't think they're on the level as the Rams. And the Niners still don't have their quarterback situation figured out. So there's that. So have the Rams on top of that division. Who else is in? Oh, so NFC you have the Packers. Packers are still going to be good. That's a tough one. I don't think I could put the Rams over the Packers yet. If the Packers stay the same and maybe even draft a receiver in the first round and actually help out their franchise quarterback. So hopefully do that. So I'd probably have the Packers over them. I don't have the Saints over them because Drew Brees is probably going to retire, and obviously I'm not picking anyone from the NFC least to overtake the Rams. So I'd have him as second as of right now, but a lot can change. It's a long off season. Draft free agency still has to happen. So yeah.
No, yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting thing because I think when you look at it, I think the key X factor is what's going to happen with San Francisco, I think, in terms of the division, because now with 7 playoff spots, you can afford to be the second best team in your division and likely have a good chance to make the playoffs, especially like you said, Dame, with the NFC least, east, whatever you want to call it. Like, you're not getting 2 playoff teams from that division next season. I do not care. You just are not. And the way I look at it is this, that even if the Niners bounce back, if their whole roster is healthy, you still are having a bit of an edge there because you'll have the better quarterback. I think when you look at the NFC overall, I gotta agree, Dame. Like just based off of quarterbacking, like they'll be improved. I just can't put them over Green Bay. Like I don't want to just point to the playoff loss from this past year because Donald was a little bit banged up, but just Aaron Rodgers is on another level this year. And like you said, like if the Packers finally stop committing management malpractice and actually help their franchise quarterback, then maybe the Packers will finally make it back to the Super Bowl. That'll require hiring a competent defensive coordinator, but that's another story. But yeah, no, I think Rams, they deserve to be in the consideration for like a top 3 favorite in the NFC come next season. And honestly, like that's pretty good. Like when you upgrade your quarterback situation at that level from a guy like a Jared Goff into a Matthew Stafford, like I think that's pretty good. And so when you talk about upgrading the quarterback position, Dame, this is a key thing. What other quarterbacks are going to be on the move this offseason potentially? Because we've heard all the stuff about Deshaun Watson. We've covered a little bit of it on the show. And of course, we're going to continue to talk about it as more news potentially breaks, more details. The Stafford deal has now happened. Who else could be on the move this season, Dame? Like I want to give it to you first. Like name the next quarterback off the top of your head that you think could be getting shipped off, aside from Deshaun Watson.
Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm just staying at division. With the Niners, I think Kyle Shanahan is smart enough to know that they can't win with Jimmy Garoppolo. So whether it's going out trading for Deshaun Watson, whether it's, I don't know, taking another avenue and trading for a quarterback, or if it's drafting one, whether it's at 12 or moving up, I think they're gonna trade Jimmy G away. I have a prediction as to what team, but I think Jimmy G is probably one that in that division will definitely be moving. to give my prediction, I think it's going to be the New England Patriots.
Agreed.
The Patriots traded him to the Niners, so it'd be kind of ironic, but
Yeah.
I
I, th-
think
I think that could happen, though. That's definitely
yeah, I
realistic.
think it's definitely set up for him to go back there. The Patriots obviously need a quarterback. They're not drafting high enough to get one of these top talents. So I could see a trade between those teams happening again, which will send Jimmy G back to the Patriots, especially because he's familiar with them.
Right, and that'd be really unique because that might be the first time ever where a team trades a player to another team and that team just trades him right back. Like I don't think that would have ever happened. Like off the top of my head, I can't think of a scenario where that's ever happened. I definitely agree, Dame. I have been on the Jimmy G back to New England Patriots thing since last offseason. I fully believe that Belichick has just been waiting ever since Brady left to get Jimmy G back. It's a very low dead cap number, so it is the most movable quarterback contract arguably on the market now. And the fact that, like you said, one thing you were kind of alluding to, the Patriots have the cap space this year. They didn't last season because of the whole Brady leaving, money left on the contracts. Like it was a whole situation. But a lot of money is going to be off the books this year, even if you include the fact that the salary cap may potentially go down. The Patriots are still going to be up there with salary cap space, so they could very easily work a Jimmy G deal, especially because he got hurt. Like, they may not even need to give up a second for him. Like, I know that's what they traded, but they may not need to have to give up a second. Maybe a third and a fifth or something like that could do it. I'm not saying it will, but I'm definitely on your side. I think Jimmy G to the Pats is a shoe, and as is the next name I'm about to name, switching over to the AFC. Dame, I think you could agree. I think Sam Darnold's getting moved no matter what Joe Douglas
Ah,
decides to do. No matter what Joe Douglas decides to do, is Sam Darnold will no longer be on the team. Whether he drafts a guy at second, moves down a couple of selections to get a quarterback anyways, or uses that second pick to get a certain quarterback in his prime on the market, I think Sam Darnold's gone just because there's going to be a quarterback that the future of the Jets team will be on that player, and they could get something back for Darnold. Like I'm still unsure if they're going to get a second just because of how terrible Adam Gase has made him look. But if you could get, I think a third round pick back for Darnold's a W. That's just my opinion. I know he's a former top whatever quarterback, but because of how bad it's looked, if you can get a third round pick back for Darnold, that to me that's a W right there. So I think Darnold's gone. Where he would go, kind of tough to say. Could a team such as the Colts maybe take a chance? Their quarterback situation is fluid. Maybe could it be a team that has a veteran starter and needs a backup? You know, the Steelers kind of did that with Dwayne Haskins. Or maybe a team that they got to do a lot of cap management. Maybe the Saints. Maybe they trade to get a young quarterback in there, you know, and see what Sean Payne can do with him. Like, it's just all so fluid. I'm really interested to see where Darnold would go. Chris, what about you?
in terms of where he'd go, of where he's gonna be at, I don't know. It's just the Jets situation is it's kind of difficult to read right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's gonna be on the move. To be honest, I just don't know which team he could go to. I always is like I'm just throwing a team out there, but is Pittsburgh ready to move on from Big Ben? Like,
Well, they do. Ben's already said that he wants to work on a contract extension with them simply for the fact to move his cap hit for next year to really spread it out over a longer term deal. And I'm sure there would have to be something in there to prepare for early retirement because if he doesn't retire now, he's retiring next season. Like that arm does not have a lot left in it. Let's just say that.
yeah.
They did pick up Haskins. They picked him up for nothing. You know, it may not hurt to bring in Darnold. But like I said, maybe another team like the Saints or the Colts could do it. Uh,
I, I personally like the Colts, to be honest, but I don't. I feel like the Colts are very like win now mode, and because Darnold's
right.
kind of like a project, I don't know if they'll make that risk. I don't know if they'll take that risk, but inconclusive for me right now. Okay,
Right.
you guys know more than I do, but I do think he's gone. I think he's gone.
Right. Well, Chris, you bring up a good point with the Colts. They are kind of in win now mode, especially with that defense. So I wanna throw this name out to you guys. He's been linked to the Colts a lot, especially because of his relationship with their head coach. What do you think is the likelihood of Carson Wentz being dealt to the Colts? Obviously, it's somewhat of a similar thing to Goff. The contract, a lot of people are calling it unmovable, but because we just saw Jared Goff get moved, I think there is a legitimate chance Carson Wentz gets moved. So, what do you guys think about that?
I I think there's a chance he gets moved, but I think because they moved on from Peterson, I think he's staying.
Mm,
I think they chose Wentz over him. So I mean, I don't like Wentz's attitude, his like refusal to like take a back seat for Jalen Hurts. What Wentz is just very suspect to me, just in terms of like a leader. But I think he stays. I just think that move they made for the new coach it was kind of like, for me, that was the answer right there. So I have one staying.
Dame?
Yeah, that's the way. That's the same way I look at it. Is I think they went to the well, not really went to all season because they fired Peterson early, but they're probably looking at it as they're gonna either keep Peterson or they're gonna keep Wentz. They weren't gonna keep both, and I think they made the decision early on by letting Peterson go and keeping Wentz. I don't see them moving him because of that, and I think they're gonna give him another year, and after that they'll probably reevaluate. But as for this season, because they moved on from Peterson, I think they're gonna stay with Wentz at least another year.
Right. Well, okay, let me end it with the last two names here. Personally, I'm still kind of 50-50 on Wentz just because there's been a lot of talks about the fact that him and the organization still have some issues. That's the main reason I'm still asking about him, because even with Doug Peterson gone, which was the right move, there's still a couple questions about his trust in the organization, various things. I do agree. I don't like a lot of how he was acting at the end. I don't blame him for being petty towards Doug. That I don't blame at all. I'm actually a fan of that aspect of it. But everything else, I'm just kind of iffy on. I just think he needs a new start. Like I really do believe he needs a fresh start over everything. Like I think he's done with Philly, and I think Philly's done with him. I guess the last two names I'll just throw out there really quick. You know, a couple. One guy's a former NFC South starting quarterback. Two former MVPs from the past decade. I know one of them obviously did not play up to any kind of high level last season, but he's going to be available. What about Cam Newton and Matt Ryan? What could be the deal with them? Obviously, Ryan would be a trade and Cam would be a free agent. Like, who is someone going to take a flyer on Cam? And with the moving of Goff, with potentially the moving of Wentz, what about that Matt Ryan contract getting off the books in Atlanta? Dame, what do you think?
The owner came out today and said that they're probably not moving him. But I read a report in the beginning of all season that said they open to moving him, so it's very conflicting reports. But I wrote about this in one of my articles. I think they're gonna stay with Ryan, but I do think at the same time they're gonna draft a quarterback at 4. Uh, I think that he's gonna be kind of a bridge quarterback for a year while the rookie sits behind Matt Ryan and learns, and then after this season they'll probably let Matt Ryan go. But yeah, that's how I look at it because the contract is hard to move. It's a lot of money, so I think they're gonna keep him for a year, make the rookie sit behind him and learn, and then they'll probably let go of him after the season.
Not bad. Chris, what about you? Matt, any takes on Matt Ryan or even Cam?
I don't see Matt Ryan leaving. I agree with Dame. I think he's going to stay with Atlanta. And I think Atlanta is going to take Justin Fields. I don't know. That's just a prediction right now. But yeah, I think he stays with Atlanta. I really haven't heard too much noise on like those trade rumors. I know there's, Atlanta's kind of like in a weird spot because they have Matt Ryan, because they have Julio Jones, but because they probably won't be winning anytime soon. There's always that, should we trade them for like to go full rebuild? But I don't think they're there just yet. So I don't see him moving. Cam's weird because I don't know necessarily. He's gonna have to accept the fact that he's not a starter in the NFL anymore. I think once he accepts the fact that he's a backup, then it'll be easier to place him. But Cam's difficult. I don't know where he could go. It's more about how he sees himself first before I could kind of put him into a category. Because I don't know. I think he probably feels that he's a starter in this league, but I don't. And I think a lot of people don't. But and there's also, he has fans, of course, that still believe in him. But you're asking me for my opinion, so I'm gonna just say that. But I don't know. Which team could use a backup?
Well, there are alleged rumors that because of the connection with Ron Rivera, Washington could be an
Ah,
option.
yes. I mean, I could see that. I could actually see that.
Yeah, that's the main reason I'm thinking, because we're thinking of trades. You know, obviously Matt Ryan, Jimmy G, like all the guys we've mentioned are in that conversation, but you got to think of a guy such as Cam and Jameis Winston, two former starting quarterbacks who will be free agents. That's part of the reason I'm thinking it. I guess last little bit before we quickly go to some of the Trevor Bauer stuff. Um, Aaron Rodgers, after his post-game press conference at the NFC Championship game, he stated how, the future of his and the team is uncertain now. He has clarified it since that, the reason he's saying is because it is a legit thing, because some guys are free agents. And at the end of the day, he just kind of put logic in, like, if there's anything we've seen in sports recently, there is nothing for certain. You look at, literally the guy he lost to left a team he was on for 20 plus years. Now, Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst said that he does not plan on letting Rodgers go. Matt LaFleur has said the same thing, that he does not envision Aaron not being the guy. But at the same time, the Packers GM also said he doesn't have any regrets on last year's draft, which, buddy, you may want to take a look back at that. But in the meantime, like, do you guys think anything could develop here, kind of end it off? Like, is there any chance anything develops from this?
Maybe. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers says he wants a trade. I don't think he's. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how realistic that is. But if he says he wants a trade, then I think there's a good chance it might happen. I think there's a good chance it will happen if he just publicly requests it. But as of now, I don't think so. I think he's gonna have a good shot to win the NFC next year. I mean, hopefully management could surround him with more pieces, man. But I mean, you never know. They did draft Jordan Love, but I don't see it. I think there's always the possibility, and if he does request a trade, if he gets traded regardless, bro, it's gonna shake up the effing league, dog.
Yeah.
I really like. It's gonna be insane. But as of right now, I don't see it. I just think they're in a very purgatory state right now. It's just you know what it is. They're just coming off the high of losing the NFC Championship game. So I think obviously there's that talk, and if Aaron Rodgers is getting complacent with how management is running the team, I guess once that settles down, it'll just calm down again. And then I just think Aaron Rodgers is going to stay with the Green Bay Packers for next season.
Right.
Yeah,
Dame?
I agree. Maybe before the Rams Lions trade, I had a different opinion. I thought he was gonna leave, but I read a report that the Rams went to the Packers about trading for Aaron Rodgers, and the Packers just completely denied him and said they're not interested at all in moving Aaron Rodgers. They're not gonna do it. So after reading that, I just don't think he's getting moved, and I don't think he's gonna request a trade because honestly, I don't see a better situation for him besides Green Bay. Yeah, he made those comments in a press conference. Hopefully, that was a strategy for him to really push the front office to give him the pieces that he needs. But honestly, I don't see a better situation for him, and I don't see a better situation for the Packers than having Aaron Rodgers as a starting quarterback next season.
Right, definitely. Obviously that was just a name to throw out there for everything that happened. Maybe just a media thing that was created. We'll obviously see what happens on that end. But all right, so ladies and gentlemen, the last segment of the show here today. Obviously, Chris mentioned it towards the top. There was a certain trade whose anniversary passed. That so certain sports teams fans were made fun of about when it happened. The team was crucified. They were taunted, maybe even bullied. But perhaps no longer. I'm going to let this to you guys, the Knicks fans. Talk what you want. Go ahead, boys. Dame, Chris, y'all pick. Who starts?
I'll start.
Okay.
Okay. So obviously, I think what was it 2 years ago now? And we don't usually do this. We don't usually talk about our favorite teams in this. We kind of keep it general. But I felt like it was the right time to talk about it. But 2 years ago, I mean, the anniversary kind of passed. We're 1 week late with it. But Kristaps Porzingis got traded to the Dallas Mavericks along with Tim Hardaway Jr. and Courtney Lee for 2 first-round picks, Dennis Smith Jr., DeAndre Jordan, Wesley Matthews. I think at the time, the Knicks were crucified by sports media analysts. I think from every route, right? I think everyone yo, this is the dumbest trade ever. Why would you do that? Why would you do this? Jurg, you're surrounded by Knicks fans. You heard it all. You're not foreign to the noise. Now, let me preface this by saying, obviously me and Dame are Knicks fans. I was a huge Porzingis fan. That was my guy. I was a KP homer, and I think Dame was a little bit more skeptical on him, saying he's not
a little more. I was 100% skeptical on him from day one, and I never changed my stance. So I'm gonna talk my talk when it's my turn, but you keep going.
Okay. All right. And so, but obviously, it's not Damian didn't say he's a bad player, but Damian just didn't think he was the guy. Obviously, us Knicks, other Knicks fans were that was our savior, right? And I was huge Porzingis fan. That was my guy. I was just so excited to have a star homegrown talent like that. And then, of course, shit happened during his run here. And we'll get into details to maybe what had happened. But he obviously gets traded. We get crucified. Now, I think initially people were so quick to jump the gun on this because it was oh, LOL Knicks, classic, trade your star player, for basically chips, right? For Cheez-Its, basically. Matthews isn't on the team. DeAndre Jordan isn't on the team anymore. Dennis Smith Jr. is playing in the G League. And we got 2 first-round picks. But of course, everyone made fun of us for the cap space, which was initially the main reason why we made this move, because that summer, KD and Kyrie were free agents. So like we swung, man. We literally swung because if there's a chance to try and land those 2 stars, you do it. So I think it's interesting because obviously as a KP homer, I think I was the more sane of every KP fan when the trade happened, because Dame was, I think, making circles when the trade happened.
Ecstatic. I
Because you
was at
didn't.
work. Oh my god, I almost got thrown out of work for being on my phone too much. I was
Yeah, man,
ecstatic.
Dame was, yeah, he was doing cartwheels. But anyway, I took a look at it and I was like, okay, I think people need to calm down right now. And of course, Jurg, you could actually jump in on this, once you hear both our sides. But ultimately, I was like, it sucks to see him go. At the time, before I knew like the backstory of a lot of things, I was like, it sucks. But I knew it was the right move, right? It was the right move because KP was due for a max contract extension. And I was like, okay, am I going to commit to a player here that is injury prone, that we don't know how he will be in the future? We don't know how this injury will affect him going forward, right? But and if we resign him to 5 years, and look at him now, like we're kind of stuck with that contract. And I guarantee you, if that was the case, people would have been like, "Oh, look at the Knicks, the idiotic move. They re-signed KP, knowing like he's injury prone." But like it was a double-edged sword for us. So I think, regardless, we would have gotten shat on. But I just think it was the right move to get him out. Now, I already mentioned the cap space. I think people are kind of memeing that. It's like, oh, they traded Porzingis for cap space. Well, again, look, I know we struck out on KD and Kyrie, but if there's a chance to get him, and I don't care what KD says. I didn't consider the Knicks. I'm like, yo, shut up. I know you did, low key. He just doesn't want to admit it. KD's kind of like a herb with the media, so obviously he's gonna downplay it. So because he doesn't want people asking him questions, of course. But I think deep down, KD was considering us. I think there was too much smoke in that area for it not to be legitimate. But yeah, I also think this is an underrated fact, and I think Dame is probably the only one that kind of sees eye to eye with me on this. I think trading Hardaway Jr. and Cornely obviously got us off the books, but I also think, I guarantee you, if we kept a Hardaway Jr., he would have won us some 2, 3, 4 meaningless ass games. We would have, because we had the worst record that year. We would have jumped back to the second worst seed, to second worst record, and that means we would have gotten the 6th pick, and then we miss on RJ, and then we get someone like a Jared Culver. So no, I didn't that. For me, was an underrated prospect. Clean slate, and then of course there was reports, by the way, I don't know if you guys heard this, that KP's brother was trying to influence the front office about certain players that they want him to trade for to kind of support KP.
I remember
right?
that.
To kind of surround him with that. I'm just like, bro, what the hell? Well, come on, dog. I think his brother was a big kind of pest in this. So he was just trying to kind of get his way into the Knicks front office, but it's like, bro, come on, stop it right now. No way. And then I think people are well, there could have been a better deal, but I don't know. I think Porzingis he was injured, of course, due for a contract extension. And look, this gets into deep shit, but he had some really serious off the court antics, right? I'm not gonna say what. You guys Google's there. You guys could figure it out. I'm pretty sure anyone that's listening knows what I'm talking about. He had some serious off court allegations, right? So
Right.
I don't think an offer would have been I don't think the Knicks had that many big deals. I don't know personally. There's it never got revealed what offers were out there. I know they were trying to get De'Aaron Fox or Marvin Bagley from the Kings. Kings said no. Smart, of course. But it's just if you add those factors into account, I don't know what the best offer could have been. And we got 2 first-round picks. Mavericks are looking pretty ass this year. We have their unprotected this year. So, and then we have their top 10 protected in 2023, which is, of course, the draft, I think, with high schoolers coming in if they want to. And this upcoming draft is loaded. It's generational. So, I think people, recency bias, were just Knicks lost the trade. This sucks, of course. They're idiots. And now looking back at it, I mean, I was kind of there from the beginning. I didn't mind the trade at all. I think everyone's kind of seeing it now. It's like, oh, maybe it's not bad. It wasn't bad to begin with, but everyone just likes to clown the Knicks because it gets them clicks. Like, KP's a diva, if we want to be real, right? And I think once we got rid of him, clean slate. No more diva shit. Like, we went from, like, Melo, who I love Melo, but he had his shenanigans as well, Coach Killer, whatever. And then we got rid of Phil, and we got rid of KP. So now we're done with that. So I kind of like where the Knicks are at now. I don't want to get off topic, but I think the trade was it had to be done. It had to be done. So I've ranted it all. I've ranted enough. Dame, go ahead.
Yeah, you literally said a lot of what I was gonna say, so I'll try to keep this quick, but mention all my points. So since the Knicks drafted KP, I was against it, but like I gotta admit, I was wrong. I was wrong. He wasn't a bum like I thought he was gonna be. He turned out to be a really good player. I'm not gonna go to great, and that's why I'm okay. I was okay with the trade from day one. He proved me wrong by not being a bum, but he was never this player that all Knicks fans thought he was or was going to be. This franchise player that's the number one option on a winning team that's going to take us to the promised land. Nah, I never believed in any of that. I never saw it happening. Um, he always was hurt. That's first of all, and he never was that kind of takeover kind of guy. He had his spurts here and there where he showed flashes of brilliance, but he was never consistent enough for me to really believe that he's going to be that savior for the Knicks. And like Chris mentioned, he was always that drama queen. I hate those kind of. Besides LeBron, but LeBron can do what he wants. He is what he is.
Yeah.
But I didn't like that about KP. He was always complaining about everything. He thought he was the shit. To just put it like plainly. What the Knicks got in the trade, they got 2 firsts, which is obviously great. And this year, that first one of those firsts is looking even better, with the Mavs now looking like they might miss the playoffs, might be a top 10 pick. What's something that's underrated about this trade is that they got rid of Trey Burke and Tim Hardaway. If you really think about it, like if we kept them, that might have maybe cost us RJ Barrett. If you really think about it, say they won 1 or 2 games, they could be in the Suns position or Cavs position, which puts them at the 5th or 6th pick, and we kind of lose out on RJ Barrett. You never know. Also, when you trade KP and you make a trade like that, that kind of shows that your team is going through a rebuild. So maybe that's why you lose more games. But obviously, if you keep KP, you keep Tim Hardaway, you keep Trey Burke, like that team's still trying to win. So you never know. You win another game or two, you could end up with the Cavs or Suns pick, and you never get RJ Barrett. So that's kind of terrifying to think about. So you have that. Then it's of course all this cap space. Like people are like, they trade KP for cap space. Well, if you really look at it, look what this cap space turned into.
Oh,
Julius
yes.
Randle, Julius Randle, who's literally having a better season than KP. And if you
He
really
is
think
better
about
than
it,
KP.
he's
He
better.
is.
He's better than KP. He's going to be an All Star this year. Can you say the same thing about KP? No, he's always hurt. Then you have Marcus Morris, who we signed and then traded, and guess what the pick turned into? Emmanuel Quickly,
Quickly. Yep.
who's looking like he's been a great pick for the Knicks. And then not to mention that you have future cap space. If you kept KP, you would have had to resign into a 5 years, $153 million deal, which would have took $30 million off your cap every single year. Without that on the books, you have future cap space to work with. Julius Randle's off the book. You could be off the books after this season, so you could have even more cap space with that. If not, you could pick up his option and have a better player than KP was for another year for $20 million. So that helps. And of course, you have the future. I don't know what free agents are going to be available this year, but what it gives the Knicks flexibility to work with. Well, if they kept KP, they kept that trade, they honestly would have been stuck where they were. They wouldn't even be stuck as like a playoff team that was contending. They would have been stuck as a bad team with no flexibility, with their own draft pick and no cap space to work with. So since day one, like Chris said, I was all for this trade. I loved it for the Knicks. A lot of people didn't, but I'm glad that people are finally starting to turn around and see that this was a great trade for the Knicks, and that I was right.
Jurg, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll kind of give my thoughts and perspective on it really fast. So I agree with you guys. Like my thing is going back to when Porzingis was drafted. I was just never a fan of that pick. I just was not. And
No
like
one was, I
I
think.
I know, yeah, and I know he became good, but I was never sold on him as a number one. Part of the reason why I thought Dallas, it was a solid deal for them on their end, was because I thought him eventually becoming a number two on that team was what my mindset was. Like, all right, he becomes the number two there. They could do something. They could do a little bit, here and there. But my thing is, I never hated that deal for the Knicks, even when it was made. I legitimately now I'll admit, like, especially in my peak years as a Heat fan, which was the big three. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I made fun of the Knicks a lot, and even a couple years after, I've made fun of the Knicks. Like, I'm not going to atone for those sins of the past. Like, I have legitimately made fun of the organization before, but I did not do that on this deal. And I think in somewhere in my mind it clicked, like, yo, like, this was actually not a wrong deal for them, because I'm a big value guy, and right now Kristaps Porzingis has nowhere lived up to the value of his contract. No, like, you cannot argue in any way right now he deserved. I believe it was close to the max deal at the time what Cuban had to give him, because you traded for him, you got to extend him. Um,
Mhm.
and I think I think Dame's point kind of punctuates it. And I don't think every single trade you could do this for, and it really tells the picture, but I think this is a trade you can do this for. You essentially, if you're the Knicks, think of what you really got out of this deal. You traded Kristaps Porzingis for Julius Randle, for RJ Barrett, for Emmanuel Quickly, and for that top draft pick this year, which you could potentially get if the Mavs season continues to A, go wrong, B, if they miss the playoffs, and C, you get some lottery luck. And then at the end of the day, you now have future cap space, which if the Knicks, I don't want to call it a big if because it's them, but it is just potentially a big if. If you hit on this draft pick, no matter who you get, if RJ continues to show out, if whether you re-sign Julius Randle or sell high on him, whatever they decide to do, if you do that and you get a pretty good free agent, it doesn't even need to be one of the best players in the league. If you get even a second tier free agent, or you use that pick on another high caliber type player and really build the team like that, then it is a bona fide win for them. Like, I think it already is now. But if Porzingis becomes nothing with Dallas, and when I say becomes, I mean does nothing. If he does nothing with Dallas, this is a Knicks win by far. So the Knicks crucified for so long. I honestly think, weirdly enough, while a lot of people made fun of it, this deal kind of turned things around for the organization. I really do.
And Jurg, you bring up an interesting point because I think the Knicks, have a solid young core right now. It's not great, but it's solid in my opinion, and they're overachieving right now, right?
I agree. Yeah.
And I think because, and this is maybe it's a spoiler for an article I might be writing right now, but the Knicks shouldn't, like, we are not gonna win anytime soon. We have to be looking at the post LeBron KD era. That's the Knicks have to be looking that far. Like, we have to be looking at the next 5 years. And I think while I like teams, like, I like what Charlotte's doing, I like Atlanta, but those teams made moves in which they're kind of looking to, I guess, win now ish, right? Like, they're stuck with a Gordon Hayward contract. The Hawks signed so many of these players, right? And I like that the Knicks stayed put. Everyone kind of tries to cut ass on them for staying put and not doing anything, but I'm just like, this is the best thing you could do because, first of all, you want to have options. Like, you would love to have options, especially as the NBA ushers into maybe a post LeBron era. Or I mean, I don't know when I don't know when he's retiring, but I think that's what the Knicks should be looking at, to be honest. And I think the fact that they have a clean slate going into this transition, I think is phenomenal for them. Like the Max Kellermans of the world, they're just like, Knicks again. I'm just like, bro, I keep hearing if KP was healthy, but that if is caps 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 lock times 8, but he's not, right? And I'm seeing Mavericks fans now complain about him. Like, he can't post up, he's playing conservative. And of course you want to play conservative because obviously you need to change your game a bit, but it's just like, all right, man. Like you can't play that hindsight is 2020 game, man. I don't know. I'm glad like some Knicks fans have like their heads screwed on straight, but so many people are quick to jump to a conclusion like this. But yeah, Dame, final thoughts before we end this because Jurg needs to leave.
The Knicks are great. KP's gone. I'm happy, and I'm happy that people are finally realizing I was right. That's my main thing.
Yeah,
Everyone
yeah, and
crucified
also,
me.
yo, you people better respect RJ Barrett some more, right? This is not even funny right now. I'm getting war ready for these people that try to slander him. But anyway, that'll be it for this week, guys. Phenomenal episode. Good job as always. Yeah, hopefully we'll be back. Super. Wow, my voice cracked. Super Bowl this Sunday.
Yep.
We already kind of predicted who the winner would be. You guys can check that episode. Yeah, that's it for this week, guys. Listeners, thank you for sticking with us this whole time. Dame Jurg, as always, goats. But until next time, peace.
Peace.